Welcome to the Elusive Truth by Rich and Larry. Here we are in November. Clown world is in full swing, and now people, I think, are starting to wake up from the mass media manipulation. So sit back and relax as we uncover the rabbit hole. Today I have some interesting audio clips exposing the truth from your great politicians. The truth is coming out, and you will see how the government and media have been pushing lies to meet their agenda. My first clip is of Joe Biden, 2006, on how tough he is on the border. Hard to believe what 13 years difference makes. So have a listen.
A country that is an erstwhile democracy where they have the greatest disparity in wealth. It's one of the wealthiest countries in the hemisphere. And because of a corrupt system that exists in Mexico, there is the 1% of the population at the top, a very small middle class, and the rest is abject poverty. Folks, I voted for a fence. I voted, unlike most Democrats, and some of you won't like it, I voted for 700-mile fence. But let me tell you, we can build a fence 40 stories high, unless it changes the dynamic in Mexico. And you will not like this, and punish American employers who knowingly violate the law when, in fact, they hire illegals.
A fence 700 miles long, 40 stories high, punish American employers? Where did this Joe Biden go? This is not the first time Joe Biden has flip-flopped on his agendas. Here's another clip from 2008 on what he would do with Afghanistan withdrawal.
And it makes a big difference to tell the American people the truth about what our options are in ending this war. If tomorrow the order goes out from I'm President of the United States, I issue an order, end the war today, begin to withdraw all American troops. It will take a year to get the American troops out. Do you hear me now? That's the truth. It will take a year to get them physically out. Now, if you leave all the equipment behind, you might be able to do it in 7 months. And you leave those billions of dollars of weapons behind, I promise they're going to be used against your grandchild and mine someday.
Well, there you have it. The truth finally came out. Joe did know what he was doing with Afghanistan. There's the proof. And did you catch that last part? Here, I'll play it again for you.
And you leave those billions of dollars of weapons behind, I promise they're going to be used against your grandchild and mine someday.
Unbelievable. Where's the media? Where's the investigations? This is crazy. He said this stuff a long time ago, and it's all happening right now, right before our eyes. So let's switch politicians, and let's talk about my favorite, Nancy Pelosi. I have no idea what the hell's going on. This clip is from Nancy Pelosi during her weekly news conference. It's really hard to understand and listen. I just don't understand. And the more I try to understand, the more frustrated I get. So hopefully you find it the same way. This is what our politicians are really like and what they're really doing in Washington, D.C. And remember, she's third in line from the presidency. We had good old Joe, we got Camel, and we got Pelosi. We need some help, and we better come soon. Have a listen.
I have this number from the Joint Committee on Tax.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have these blue dog, moderate Democrats who are holding out wanting a CBO school. There are differences between those, and they had indicated to me that those two things are not quite the same. Is that enough to bring them across the line, or what has to happen?
Those two things are not quite the same.
A CBO score and a JCT score, and
Yeah,
therefore,
that's right.
is that going to be enough to get them to vote later tonight, tomorrow on that, or is this
Let
going
me
to
say that we have been all along, this is not sequential. Like when we get to this point, we'll send this here. All along, we've been sending things to CBO. This is not new to them. And same thing with joint tax, and they've come now with our bill, come out and said how much money it will absolutely produce. And that doesn't include over and above the prescription drug money, which is hundreds of billions of dollars, as well as $400 billion from the enforcement. And by the way, considered to be a low figure. Former IRS directors have written and said it could be close to $1 trillion. but we're counting it low. We have been very conservative in every estimate that we make, so that it truly is formidably paid for. The CBO also has been. The thing about the CBO is they have most of the information now. They have the new information, but they have to correlate it. They have to say, if you say, well, we had 3.5, now we have 1.7, cut it in half, or whatever the number is, cut it in half. It doesn't work. They have to relate it, what the impact is from one area to the next. Takes a little longer, more subjectivity, but this shouldn't take long to get. The other thing that we're getting we're sending stuff over to the Senate. Well, most of the product that we've done is, except now we may have added in the last day or so, and some of what we added is Senate to the bill, like a hearing. Bernie doesn't like hearing. Excuse me, Bernie loves hearing. Manchin doesn't want hearing in the bill and all that stuff. So some is Senate-oriented, and then we have the family medical leave. We figured if they're putting things in, then we can put something in, even if Manchin doesn't like it. So we are getting some bird and privilege. I think mostly we're getting privilege scrub, because privilege scrub is deadly to a bill. Birdable, it's important. You have to take it out, but privilege violation can take you out. So we're again getting that as we go along as well. But when we pass a bill, then they will see it in its aggregate and make some.
Any concerns that any of this is quote messaging, because that they have to take some of those things out regardless, no matter what you send over? You said you weren't going to send a messaging bill.
No, we're not sending a messaging bill, but we want to be sure that what we send is not birdable or bird bath or privilege scrub. They're the two exercises we're getting engaged, bathing exercises we're engaged in. And we're getting good responses. There's no bad answer. It is what it is. There's a certain objectivity to it. It is what it is, because whatever it is, this is the greatest monumental, historic piece of legislation that any of us will ever be a part of it. And I say that with great proprietary ownership of the Affordable Care Act, which was magnificent and is. But this contains that, and so much strengthening that, and so much more. So if this isn't in or that isn't that, because it's reconciliation, we can save some of that for another day when it's regular order. But most of what is in there will survive, and it will be great. And so it helps the American people. It will lower the cost of raising children in our country. Think of that. The overarching part of it. It's about the children. It's about their parents. If you're talking climate, you're talking jobs and children. If you're talking the health piece of it, you're talking jobs, and you're talking children and their families. If you're talking care can't wait, which is the third bucket, you're talking children and their families and jobs, and how we respect people who do those jobs, how we of home care, and how we enable women and dads, moms, to participate in the workforce in a more meaningful way. I hope you have a very nice day. We'll keep you informed. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Are you approaching are House Democrats approaching a put up or shut up moment on this?
See, I don't know what to even say. I'm sorry you had to listen to that, because you rambled on for several minutes, went from one subject to another. So let's circle back to next week, and we'll talk about Biden and this $450,000 reparation that he wants to pay to the migrants that have been wronged by the previous administration. So here again, listen to Joe.
As you were leaving for your overseas trip, there were reports that were surfacing that your administration is planning to pay illegal immigrants who are separated from their families at the border up to $450,000 each, possibly $1 million per family. Do you think that that might incentivize more people to come over illegally?
If you guys keep sending that garbage out, yeah, but it's not true.
So this is a garbage report.
Yeah.
Okay. So
$450,000 per person. Is that what you're saying?
that was separated from a family member at the border under the last administration.
That's not going to happen.
So then a few days later, here's what Joe has to say about what we just listened to.
You said last week that this report about migrant families at the border getting payments was garbage.
No, I didn't say that. Let's get it straight. Now, here's the thing.
Sure.
If, in fact, because of the outrageous behavior of the last administration, you coming across the border, whether it was legal or illegal, and you lost your child, it's gone, you deserve some kind of compensation, no matter what the circumstance.
Wow, that's incredible. You heard it. So did former ICE Director Tom Horman. This is what he thinks about Joe and his border policy.
What color is the sky in his world? When he says outrageous behavior of the Trump administration, let's be clear. What the Trump administration did, and I was a part of the Trump administration, what we did was enforce the law, which the Biden administration should try, and they would have a secure border. We enforced the laws as enacted by Congress, and that resulted in a 40-year low in illegal immigration. Illegal immigration was down 83%. How many lives were saved? How many women weren't raped by the cartels? How many children didn't die? How many pounds of fentanyl didn't come to this country and kill our young people? The Trump administration enforced the law, gave him the most secure border this nation has ever had. The only outrageous behavior I see is we have the first president ever in the history of this nation, in Joe Biden, who came into office and intentionally unsecured the most secure border we've ever had as a nation. Who does that? Who unsecures the border, which has resulted in a record number of illegal immigration this past year, a historic number. Record number of fentanyl killed over 90,000 young Americans. The COVID had come across this border. Cartels are making billions of dollars. This was outrageous behavior. President Trump did his job, and those that worked for President Trump did nothing but our job and enforce the law. Well, first of all, you don't pay someone who broke your laws. Let's understand, these migrants were separated because they broke the law. They entered the country illegally, which is a crime. U.S. citizen families get separated every day by law enforcement when a parent is arrested and prosecuted. They want a different set of rules. So let me ask you this question. President Biden, how much money you going to give to angel moms and dads whose children were separated from them forever because these parents buried their children because they're killed by illegal aliens? How much money do they get? How much money, and let's remember, the angel moms and dads weren't committing any crimes. They lost your children, though, forever. How much we don't give to families of fentanyl overdose and 90,000 young children that die because the fentanyl comes across that border because of Biden's incompetence in opening that border? How much are they going to get in their permanent separation from their children? It's a continuation of the Biden administration lying to the American people. Just like when the secretary gets up on stage, every time he gets on a stage, he says the border's closed, it's secure. He stood in Del Rio saying, Haitians, you're going to be deported. In the meantime, he knew that 15,000 being walked out the door. Then when Chris Wallace interviewed him, he says, well, they were released, were they not? Yeah, but they're in immigration proceedings. But if you look into that, they're not in immigration proceedings. They're released with a notice to report. It's a continuation of the lies. You're hiding the truth from the American. Open borders. This is what the president ran on. He sold out to progressives. This is open borders. This is what we have.
Wow, what a great American patriot. This guy is awesome. A lot of truth to what he says, and the media does not want you to know this. I'm glad you listened to that. He had a lot to say. Thank you for your service, Tom. Now that people are starting to awaken to what's really going on, let me play a clip from Senator Rick Scott, Florida, Republican, and his remarks. Spot on. Have a listen.
Senator from Florida.
Madam President, in December, President Biden promised he would not require Americans to be vaccinated or require that they carry vaccine passports. But here he is, less than 10 months into his presidency. I think he must have forgotten what he said, breaking promise after promise and going back on his word. How can the American people believe anything he says? Americans are sick and tired of the government telling them what to do and are more than capable of making the right choices to protect themselves, their family, and their neighbors. But now, because King Biden has gone back on his word or forgotten what he said, millions of Americans are facing an ultimatum. Get the vaccine or lose your job. For companies, it's either make your employees get the jab or lose your federal contract. This is a complete overreach of power. Biden wants to control our lives and make the government be the authority in every area of your life. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that Biden has this power. Nowhere. Listen, I had COVID. I'm grateful that I was able to get vaccinated. I hope that all Americans talk with their doctors and consider making the same decision. It's a personal decision every individual gets to make. But that's not how President Biden sees it. That's why I've introduced multiple pieces of legislation to push back on these unconstitutional vaccine mandates. I've introduced the Freedom to Fly Act to prohibit the TSA from requiring Americans to show proof of vaccination or produce a vaccine passport and protect the privacy of American families. I don't believe that the federal government has any business requiring travelers to turn over their personal medical information to catch a flight. I introduced the Stop Mandating Additional Requirements for Travel Act to prohibit the feds from requiring Americans to wear masks on public transportation like Amtrak or on airplanes. I've also introduced the Prevent Unconstitutional Vaccine Mandates for Interstate Commerce Act, which would prevent federal agencies like the Department of Transportation from requiring proof of vaccination for companies trying to do business across state lines. Last month, I introduced legislation to prevent vaccine mandates from being tied to a few of our federal assistance programs like Medicare, Social Security, food stamps, and public housing. I hoped everyone in this chamber would have agreed that we shouldn't force struggling American families to choose between Social Security disability checks and a personal health decision. Most Americans would be shocked if a politician said it's acceptable to deny someone health insurance or food stamps simply because of their vaccine status. Sadly, Madam President, this is exactly what happened on this floor last month. All I did was request that Americans, regardless of vaccine status, should be able to access a few of our most essential government programs. And my Democrat colleagues disagreed every time. The Democrat Party leaves no room for disagreement. They leave no room for compromise. I think it's shameful. But unlike Joe Biden and Democrats in Washington, I don't believe that government knows better than the American people. My parents didn't have much of a formal education, but they worked hard and made the choices they felt were right for the health and well-being of our family. But as Biden tries to control the lives of every American family, our economy is suffering. Inflation is already skyrocketing, and these vaccine mandates are going to add to it. Only weeks ago, the Federal Reserve published its latest Beige Book report. In the report, the Fed found that vaccine mandates were widely cited by businesses as a reason for low labor supply and hiring and retention issues. Madam President, the Federal Reserve admitted what I've been warning about for weeks. Joe Biden's unconstitutional vaccine mandates are causing higher turnover, driving Americans out of their jobs, and further fueling the devastating supply chain and inflation crisis plaguing American families. When I think about the impact of vaccine mandates, I think about my dad. My dad was a truck driver. Anyone who has driven trucks or been close to someone in that line of work knows how demanding the job can be. There is already a driver shortage in this country, and we can't afford to lose any more due to unconstitutional vaccine mandates. Or consider first responders. Dozens of Massachusetts state troopers are threatening to resign over vaccine mandates. Los Angeles County could lose up to 10% of its police force. Chicago may see up to 50% of its police who refuse to comply with vaccine mandates. Seattle is preparing for a mass exodus of officers in the coming weeks due to people quitting over vaccine mandates. For the past several months, we've been seeing rises in violent crime and problems retaining police officers. We should not add to that ongoing problem by forcing police officers to choose between their jobs and taking a vaccine. I've called on Secretary Raimondo and Secretary Buttigieg to come before the Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee to explain what they're doing to prevent the United States supply chains from completely crumbling over Biden's failed policies and mandates. Sadly, I haven't heard a word from them, but I do see them on TV all the time. These people love to get on CNN and be commentators. That's not their jobs. Their job isn't just to point out a problem. Their job is to fix it. Now we've seen all this disruption that this virus has caused. Many of us know someone who is falling extremely ill, who has died because of COVID. That's why I'm very appreciative of all those who worked so hard to develop the vaccine. but I'm 100% against these unconstitutional mandates. Being vaccinated is a decision every American gets to make for themselves. It's an authoritarian overreach by King Biden to threaten people with job loss unless they get the vaccine. Think about it. Why on earth would a president do something they know is going to cost someone their job? Our job within government is to provide people with good information so they can make informed decisions and help create jobs, not kill them. But we've seen everything Joe Biden does make things worse for families and businesses in Florida and across our great country. It's time to rescind his proposed unconstitutional vaccine mandates. Now I yield the floor to my colleague from Tennessee.
This is awesome. See, people are waking up, and we do have some politicians that have common sense and are working for us. So let's continue with Senator Marsha Blackburn, Tennessee Republican. Here's her remarks.
The American people, and indeed Tennesseans, are not anti-vax. What they are is anti-socialism. And what they see happening with this vaccine mandate, this one-size-fits-all, government going to tell you what to do, how to do, when to do. They see this as a part of the Democrats' agenda to take control of your life, cradle to grave, daylight to dark, 24/7, 365. And they're pushing back. And thank goodness that they are. And I'm grateful that Senator Braun is leading this effort to help push back on behalf of the American people. They do not want a one-size-fits-all mandate that is going to adversely impact 80 million workers. Now, this is at a time when we have 10.4 million jobs that are unfilled. And we have families that are struggling to come back from the pandemic, and people that are trying to get back to work. And in order to push this socialist agenda, this government control of health care, what do? A one-size-fits-all vaccine mandate that says if you don't get the jab, Joe Biden is going to get you fired from your job. And that's the message that they're sending, that the vaccine and getting a shot is more important than you being able to provide for your family. The vaccine and getting a shot is more important to the Democrats than you being able to talk to your doctor to make a decision if this is going to be right for you, if you're medically able to get this. And I've talked to dozens of Tennesseans, whether they are first responders or law enforcement or healthcare workers, airline workers, trucking companies, and I hear the same thing over and over. I'm glad President Donald Trump got our agencies and our pharmaceutical companies working together, that we got a vaccine, that we got it to market, that people that can take it are going to take it. And many are. But the point is, don't force someone to do this against their will. Allow them to talk to their doctor, to look at their family medical history, and decide if this is going to be a fit for them.
Very nice. See, there is hope. I'm going to finish up with Senator James Langford. He has some remarks on Biden as well.
James, absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate that. September the 9th, President Biden stepped up and announced to the nation that he's losing patience with the country, and so he demanded that everyone steps up and gets the vaccine and laid a mandate down. Federal workers, federal contractors, members of the military, and on private businesses. And he defined that as businesses with 100 people or more. He literally reached into every company and said, I don't care how you run your company. His statement was, I'm the President of the United States. I'm now going to tell your company what to do. It has caused chaos across the country and across our economy, and it's because a tremendous amount of frustration in a lot of families and employers in my state in Oklahoma. Listen, the vast majority of the people in my state have been vaccinated. They've chosen to do that. I've been vaccinated. But the vast majority of the people that have been vaccinated also say that was a personal choice that I made. I want others to have the same ability to have the same choice that I made in their life as well. We've got 40 plus million people that have already had COVID and have recovered. They have natural immunity. We have people that are in cancer treatments and other things that are saying this is not right. I have a friend of mine that his son has had long-term COVID, and after months and months and months of a very difficult, long recovery, is now on the other side of it. And now his employer is saying, if you want to stay employed, you need to have this vaccine. And he has no idea how his body's going to react to this. He literally has to choose between his own doctor telling him don't do this or keeping his job because President Biden has determined he's going to be the nation's dad and he's going to tell everyone what they have to do. That's not who we are as a country. That's not how we should operate. That's not the job of the president, is to go instruct everyone. I've also spoken to a lot of folks that work in union shops in my state. And those union members are telling me that they've gone to their stewards, their folks locally, and have said, I need somebody to represent me because I don't want to be able to do this. I don't want to take this vaccine for whatever personal reason that they have. And they're finding out that the union bosses here in Washington, D.C. are saying, no, we're going to salute to President Biden. And they're literally not representing even the challenges of the individuals that are on the floor. Those folks are incredibly frustrated because they thought their union represented them, but they're finding out actually their union represents the Democrat Party and whatever the Democrat president wants to be able to do, regardless if it violates their union contract. Literally, the president's reaching into every collective bargaining agreement across the country and is saying, I'm adding a new feature to your collective bargaining agreement, whether you want it there or not. This is not the United States of America that we all know and love, where individuals have personal responsibility and personal freedoms. We live and die by our own decisions on what we do with our own lives and with our own future. And this president is saying, no, you don't. You're going to live by my decisions. That's not who we are. And quite frankly, as Oklahomans, as I've told a lot of people, if I stood up and told everybody they had to come by my house to get a $100 bill, there'd be a lot of Oklahomans that would say, I don't want it because you told me I have to do it. There are a lot of folks that I've talked to that said they were willing to do the vaccine until there was a federal mandate on this. And now they're digging in because we're Americans and we're a stubborn breed. That's what has made us the most prosperous economy in the world, is because we're a stubborn people that works hard and has personal responsibility. And it is not the job of the president to take that away from the American people. And it is certainly the cry of the people of Oklahoma to say, do whatever we can to stop it. Now, we can bring up a bill in Speaker Pelosi's House, and we can demand that Chuck Schumer takes up a bill to be able to take this down, because we're all part of legislation, but we can push and get a Congressional Review Act to be able to get this mandate pulled out as soon as they put it in. And we believe the reason they've delayed putting out the instructions from the Department of Labor so long is because they're afraid of this exact thing that we're doing. They don't want us to be able to challenge this and put everyone on record to say we want to encourage people to take a vaccine, but not mandate a vaccine, because that's the American way. So we are putting this forward right now to try to bring this to a head and to say, let's settle this today.
Man, these people can talk, but wow, awesome. Very valid points. Common sense. That's what we're lacking these days, is common sense. The time. Most people don't have time to listen to long-winded politicians. And that's why the media steps in and gives us little condensed versions of what they want to let us know. As you can see, there's politicians out there that have, as I said, common sense. They're working for us. They are trying to make this place better for all of us, not just them, but for everyone. And that's what's great about America. So here we go. I'm going to end this whole shebang with Joe Biden. You know, he went to Glasgow, Scotland, because he had to talk about climate and other great things. And once again, he went off the rails and not quite sure what was going on. So have a listen.
One of the reasons why I decided to talk about the need to deal with the operation and the gouging that occurs in some of the pricing of beef and chicken and other things is that that's why I think that's why I indicated to you we're going to look at whether or not there's a violation of antitrust laws and what they're doing.
I don't think Joe knows what he's doing. Joe is just he's not done. He's not done. He's got one more thing to say about Thanksgiving, because Obviously, this year is way better than last year, all because of Joe.
I think that and anyone who would prefer, as bad as things are in terms of prices hurting families now, trade this Thanksgiving for last Thanksgiving.
Well, there you have it, straight from the horse's mouth. See, there is some positivity happening all around us. We're getting rid of this negativity, and we'll move forward. Get ready for Thanksgiving. That's coming up soon. Get all your stuff. Things are getting scarce around here. And I have one last, one teeny little clip before I say goodbye. I think you're going to like this one. I know everybody's sick of let's go Brandon, let's go Brandon. It's all over the place, and that's all you hear. Here's a different take from our friends in Idaho. Check it out. Joe Biden sucks. See? I told you people are waking up and they're seeing what's going on. Well, folks, have a great day. Take care. We'll see you soon. Keep looking for that elusive truth. Bye.